So JuJu Watkins is going to be the face of women's college basketball. We all know that, and we know how important JuJu is going to be for college basketball this year. She's probably, between her and Cooper Flagg, going to be the faces of college basketball, period. Maybe some of the Rutgers guys, maybe VJ Edgecombe. To be fair, I'm such a big fan of Edgecombe after the Olympics, but she's going to be thereabouts with the faces of just college basketball in general. But her coach basically confirmed that not only that like they reached out to Iowa, but also that Caitlin Clark basically gave her phone number and was like, if you need to ask any questions about just anything about dealing with stardom, to reach out to her. And that was obviously to JuJu and to the coach. So the quote from Caitlin was, I've had to deal with this for 18 months. JuJu's going to have to deal with it for 3 years. And it is funny because this is the type of thing where it's like, you want to hate on certain players, but it's like all of these young players are going to have to deal with it. And I think that's why I think you're going to see in the next couple of years with the NIL crew, for lack of a better word, the NIL crew. And I kind of understand why there might be some sort of bitterness in general about the WNBA players just in the best league in the world not making really any money throughout their entire career. But the NIL crew, the likes of Paige, Flau'jae, JuJu, if you're one's yamming on people, Fournier, Cam Brink, Van Lith, to be honest, like all of these players, when they come in, they're coming in as millionaires. Like, women's college basketball is going to be bigger than the WNBA this year, even without Caitlin Clark. Because yes, Caitlin Clark is the biggest name of them all, but Paige Bueckers and JuJu Watkins are bigger names than A'ja Wilson. No offense, they are. But these players are walking into the WNBA as millionaires, so there's not that sort of resentment towards like a Caitlin Clark, because what Caitlin Clark has done has made them more money. So they're happy. And them at a young age are also having to deal with a level of celebrity that these players didn't have to deal with. Like, as great as those UConn teams were, Breanna Stewart didn't have to deal with that level of celebrity. Like, as great as those Notre Dame teams were, I'm pretty sure Marina Mabrey could have walked down the street and no one would have noticed her. So this is JuJu Watkins' coach talking about Caitlin Clark and talking about Iowa as well, not just Caitlin Clark herself.
As a coach, how do you help her navigate what will inevitably be a season with the spotlight just squarely on her?
Yeah. Well, in terms of JuJu, the basketball player, I've always felt like one of my biggest goals was to almost stay out of the way and let her step into her greatness. And when she did that her freshman year, now with it comes a ton of attention. So our administration has reached out to Iowa quite a bit and said, okay, tell us what we need to know. Some of the things that Caitlin dealt with. I reached out to Caitlin and say, how can I help JuJu with this? I feel like it's my job to make sure that I'm using all the resources.
And that's the one thing I really do like about this coach. It's not a coach being like, oh, wow, we don't like the fact that Caitlin's got all this hype. It's a coach being like, well, my player's about to get this type of hype. My player has at almost this type of hype. She's going to be the number one like face of this. So instead of being out there complaining about Caitlin, why not actually reach out to Caitlin, try to get her to give advice on how to deal with this, and then to help my player. And that's the one thing I don't get with a lot of these WNBA players, because it's like, why they're going out there trying to make, not even make an enemy of Caitlin Clark, but like trying to make sure that they're as far away from Caitlin Clark as possible. Like, even heard her at like the start of the year being like, well, the vets don't talk to her. And then that all kind of changed at the All-Star break. It all kind of changed with that first game in Phoenix, where Taurasi, Brittany Griner, these players basically went out of their way to be positive towards Caitlin Clark. So I do have to give some credit to the Phoenix Mercury team there. But they went out of their way for that. And why some of these other players, when they know there's going to be more attention on the league, aren't simultaneously trying to help Caitlin Clark deal with the league. But also, for example, if you are even if you're an A'ja Wilson, obviously she's got too much pride. Realistically, the best thing that A'ja Wilson could have done was almost befriended Caitlin Clark, talk to Caitlin Clark about, like, obviously all the stuff she's had to deal with, about a lot of the stuff about the fans, like how she deals with stuff. Because the reality is what Caitlin Clark needed to learn an awful lot as far as being a pro athlete. She needed to learn an awful lot on the court stuff. She needed to learn some off the court stuff as well, which is only part of growing. These WNBA players that haven't had to deal with what Caitlin Clark's had to deal with, realistically, they had stuff to learn from the 22-year-old as well. So it could have been a situation where everybody in the league benefited from the Caitlin Clark effect, but then you've got some people going out of their way to make sure they didn't. And she's like, okay, yeah, you know what? This has happened before. We know it's going to happen again. How can we prepare to make sure that our player is in the best situation possible?
Tapped into my NBA people saying, okay, when you have someone, who's going to get this much attention, how do you, A, keep them safe, but B, allow them to embrace everything that's going on. So those are the resources that I've tried to use. And then it's always just keeping that relationship with her, trying to make sure she's comfortable with me to say when she needs something or when something isn't going right. But we're all looking forward to the attention and making sure that we're ready to embrace it.
What was the most valuable thing that Caitlin told you about how to help JuJu deal with the incredible pressure that we saw her deal with firsthand?
Yeah. Well, first of all, she was so gracious. She literally took my phone and said, here's my number. Reach out, call me, see how I can help. But essentially, she said I had that level of attention for, she said like a year and a half. And she said, JuJu's going to have it for 3 years. So, obviously try to let her get through the WNBA season, take a break, and then, really ask her specifically about what she would do the same, what she would do differently. And we've talked with their program about everything from security to autographs to, making sure we maximize this time, but also, keep.
But that is the smartest thing USC can do, because not only have you got like a once in a generation, I'm not even going to say once in a generation talent, but because the problem is with women's college basketball is there are so many once in a generation talents that have come through the last 5 years, whether it be Paige Bueckers, whether it be as far as what they can do, or whether it be obviously Caitlin Clark, what they did as freshmen, what Caitlin Clark did throughout her whole career, what Flaw J has done as far as the off the court stuff with the on the court stuff, and then just like this 2027 or this class with Paige or with JuJu, we've got Hannah Hidalgo, Full Wiley, JuJu, and people also don't forget with JuJu Watkins draft class, which Zhang Zhiyu is in that draft class, the 7'3" girl. And people being like, oh, she won't be able to play at any level. She had 42 points in like 20 minutes against Australia. Australia had Lara Sumfai playing, who is probably going to go to UConn, who will be one of the better players, who's going to be a WNBA player. And she had 42 in 20 minutes on a future WNBA player. And she's only getting better. But USC have that type of player, and they're making sure that they know how to deal with it. I don't think we've heard with the Caitlin Clark situation where it's like when she first was coming through, not everybody, she didn't really know how to deal with it. After her sophomore year, I think she got followed home at one stage where it's like, and you can even see it with stuff Angel Reese is saying. Like Angel Reese, LSU definitely did not prepare her for the stuff she was going to deal with. And even when it came to her final year, obviously no one knew what was going to happen after that situation. But even in her final year, and even true to the WNBA, the Chicago Sky and LSU did not prepare her for the level of, not even level stardom, level of attention she was going to get. Whereas it seemed like Iowa did a really good job. So fair play to the coach of USC reaching out. Anyway, that is the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.